Hello, I hope you're doing well and having a great day. Today we're going to talk about Carl Karkshin, a unique space related to fashion where creativity thrives. There are a lot of details we need to consider, like the colors should be sharp and strong. Basically, in all the images used in these spaces, these environments, they involve special colors and very specific corrections. In the image we have here, if you pay attention, it touches from 640 to 128 in the raw, rough space. To make adjustments in this editing process, I press Alt and P, Alt and P, Alt and P, Alt and P repeatedly as part of my workflow. I add 4 different layers, all of which are related to contrast here, and I name them Trust for easy identification. So first, what I do is separate the layers, and then I carefully drag them out to 896 from this side, and to 128 for the shadows, making sure to be precise with the placement. Notice that the blue color has gone a bit over, but that's not important at this stage. It will be fixed in post-production, so there's no need to worry about it right now. In the next layer, I move to the crop layer, and I adjust the shadow amount as needed, making sure the image looks balanced. I try to open up the layers so that our lighting improves and the overall look becomes more appealing. In the fourth layer, I get into the highlights, and I bring the shadows close to 0 from this side, which helps to create a more dynamic range. I raise the highlights a bit, just enough to make a difference, and open up the shadows even more to enhance the details in the darker areas. In the next layer, the shadows we've created are brought close to 0, but we shouldn't have gone over 100 on the highlights, as that could cause issues. So what do we do in this layer now? Let's think about the best approach to maintain the balance and ensure the final result looks great. What we need to do is simply and carefully reset the shadows to 0 from the primary tab, and then select the luminance wheels. I reset the shadows from here, and I also reset the highlights. This is the main point, and the only thing I add to the work is a bit of sharpness. In the next tab, we want to secure and lock in the white layers that we carefully placed over the blacks, over the shadow areas, and now we want to stabilize them and create a very deep contrast. Pay close attention here. It's easy to revert, but with this method I create a contrast for these areas. Naturally, in the next step we add saturation to the extent that we need for our image. If we add too much saturation, our image will not look interesting or visually appealing. In the following step, I come in to carefully adjust the colors in the primary color briefs. I add a bit of blue because the image is somewhat yellowish, and this helps to balance the overall color tone. In the next step, I gradually increase the depth of the cayenne blue and slightly reduce their saturation, making subtle adjustments to the overall appearance. Now in the part where we're carefully adjusting the color contrast, I make some subtle adjustments. I check the skin tone to make sure it's in the correct layer, which is important. I increase it just a bit, and since some of the skin tone is present in the yellow color, I overlap it slightly to bring it closer to the natural skin tone. Because the raw yellow color is almost scattered in some areas, I also reduce its saturation a little bit. The colors are still in the correct contrast, maintaining the proper visual difference between them. In the next layer, what do? We apply the effects. First, I select the skin tone area carefully. In that layer, we reduce the elements that are not needed. I select the masks from this section, making sure to choose the area that covers the face completely. After selecting the face, I set the feather value, which helps to soften the edges of the mask and create a smoother transition. This adjustment makes it easier to work with the image, as the selections are more precise and the editing process becomes more efficient. Very good. Now what should I add to the layer? In this layer, we can add a bit of color to the face, gently enhancing its appearance, and you can adjust the percentage as needed. It's usually enough to adjust the saturation as you like. If you want, you can increase it for a more vibrant effect. Alright, in the next layer, I'll add the next effect. I'll add the available lighting effect in the next layer. Or I can just select the glow right here and add it. In this part, let's add a bit of light feeling. In the next layer, I'll add the next effect. Make sure you have the Zombella section. What does Zombella do in perspective work? I'll probably set it to 12,000 and then adjust it to whatever fits best for your needs, and maintain control over it as necessary. And I'll reverse it. I'll also do a bit of blending. In the next step, I'll stabilize the contrast a bit. Let's take a moment to carefully adjust the highlights in our painting. Highlights are important because they help bring out the details and make the artwork feel more vibrant and alive. In the next layer, I'll continue painting, building up the colors and textures a bit more. You can use any color you like for this step. Feel free to experiment and see what works best for your own style. For most of my work, though, I'm going to add blue, as it often gives a cool and calming effect to the painting. And then I increase the flow and reduce the saturation. In this part, it's possible that your skin tone might shift from its original state. I'll show you that the skin tone could change a lot here, and honestly, I step away from this part because of the color I'm applying. In the next layer, I'll bring the skin tone back. So, I'll carefully restore the skin tone to its natural appearance. We need to pay close attention to these values and to how much we're actually adding. Let me carefully reduce the blue in some specific areas and also decrease the green so that one particular part is completely separated from the rest. I need to do this very carefully and precisely. Now, when I'm finalizing my work, there are several different options we can use. For example, we can decide how we want to apply the color. Whatever color we want, we can apply beforehand and also in the layers. In this project, we have several different tasks, and here we can apply each one as needed, and once it's done, the work is considered complete. This is a comprehensive process. I use that approach, and I apply it here. I navigate into the settings menu, and then I make adjustments to whatever desired amount I want. I separate the character completely, and then I completely remove it with the hand mask tool. In the background, I can apply a variety of colors and further separate the character. And let's see which color works well for our project. If I choose this particular color, sometimes we can actually go into these different layers and change the mode of the work, for example, turn it into a screen so that the intensity blends well with the project and gives it an interesting, unique, and visually appealing feel and look. When you enter the layer, I select the depth again here, just like we did before, and do the same thing here. I go into the settings, making sure to carefully adjust each parameter to achieve the desired effect. This process allows for more control and flexibility, ensuring that the final result matches the creative vision for the project. I isolate the subject, separate the character from the rest, and remove its mask. In this section, I apply the mauve color. I check my green. The cyan green color actually gives a much better and more visually appealing result overall. If you pay close attention to the details, you will notice that two different lights have been added to the work together, so you can use whichever one you want depending on your preference or the effect you are aiming for. Here I go into the final layer of the project, make some careful adjustments to fine-tune the appearance, and this is the result. I carefully bring my bar a bit closer to the files, making sure it is in the right position. Then I gently lower the fade to achieve the desired effect. This is in the final section. I want to make my colors. It's really vibrant. For example, in this case, I select the color blue here, and then I gently push it even further towards a more intense blue shade. You can see that the colors have become very intense. You need to pay close attention to this step, because when you do it, it will affect the whole project. For example, in the slicer, I reduced the density and also reduced the saturation. Alright, we can certainly make adjustments and correct it as needed. Thank you for following along with this tutorial. Keep in mind that all grading work in every color and lighting situation must be done carefully, and you should apply the appropriate correction for each case. It's important to make sure you calibrate your monitor.